Hello and welcome to What is a Fraction with Cuba Education. In this lecture, you will understand what a fraction is, find simple fractions of amounts and use the rule divide by the bottom and times by the top. So let's go through what a fraction actually is. So many people struggle with fractions because they don't actually know what it means. And the word fraction comes from the word fracto from Latin, which means to break or to break up. So when we are dealing with fractions, we're just breaking something up into different pieces. At GCSE level, we're usually dividing up or breaking up amounts or numbers rather than pizza and cake like we did in primary school. So let's say I want to know what half of 34 is. The number on the bottom tells us how many to break it into. So I need to break 34 into 2, or divide 34 by 2, or half it, whichever is easiest to remember. Let's look at this a different way. A half of 34. So here's a rectangular block and I'm going to split that into 2. I'm halving it because there's a 2 on the bottom of my fraction. So I know that 17 must go in each box because 2 17s make up 34 and I've halved it. If you struggle with halving numbers such as 34, we can split them in different ways. So here we have 30. So let's say we'll try and find a half of 30. If you find it hard, then and to do it without a calculator, we can think, well, 30 can be split up into 20 and 10. Okay, so 20 and 10 make 30, and those numbers are easier to halve. Half of 20 is 10, and half of 10 is 5. So if we add those together, that gives us 15. Okay, so let's look at our previous question again, 34. If we're going to half 34, we could think, right, this might be a little bit harder. So I'm going to split that up into 20, 10 and 4. Okay, so it all makes 34, but these numbers are much easier to halve. Half of 20 is 10, half of 10 is 5, and half of 4 is 2. If we just add all of those together, it gives us 17. So I have found a half of 34 by splitting the 34 into easier numbers to halve and halved them. It's just a quick tip you could use if you struggle. So let's look at some other fractions. We've got a third of 33. So if I want a third of 33, it means I have to split up 33 into 3 pieces. So I'm going to draw my rectangle and split it into 3 boxes. 33 divided by 3, which is like breaking it up into 3 pieces, is 11. So 11 would go in each box. Okay, so let's have a look at this next one, a quarter of 60. So if I've got to split 60 into quarters, that means I have to divide by 4. So I've drawn my rectangle and split it into 4. And then I have to do 60 divided by 4, which is 15. Okay? So 15 goes in each box. Another way of dividing by 4 is to half this to give you 30 and then half it again. That gives you 15. Okay, that's just another way of dividing by 4, quicker way. The next one is a fifth of 70. So I've got to divide 70 by 5. So I've split my box into 5 and 70 divided by 5 is 14. So that goes in there like that. Now we're going to look at these numbers again but with a different fraction. So here we have 2/3 now of 33. So I still have to divide 33 into 3 pieces. Let's do that first. Okay, so 11 goes in each box. Okay, 33 divided by 3. We've still used this bottom number. And then all we have to do now is take that 11 and we want to times it by the number on the top. 11 times 2 is 22. And that's our answer there, 22. Okay, 2/3 of 33 is 22. Okay, the next one is 3/4 of 60. So we still have to do 60 divided by the bottom number. So we'll draw a rectangle. 60 divided by 4 is 15, as we know from the previous slide. 15 goes in each box, but then we must take that 15 and I want 3 of them. So 1, 2, 3. I only want 3 of the boxes out of the 4. That's what that actually means. So I would do 15 times 3, giving me 45, and that's my answer. Okay, so the last one that we've got to do is 2/5 of 70. So we still need to do 70 divided by the bottom number, which is 5. So I'm going to draw my box and split it into 5. 70 divided by 5 is 14, so 14 goes in each box. And then it says that I want 2 of them. So 2 of these boxes is 14 times 2, which is 28. And that's our final answer. Okay, so what I want you to remember is that you must divide by the bottom and times by the top. Okay, that's your main rule for this lesson. Divide by the bottom number, and then whatever answer you get, you times it by the number on the top of the fraction. Okay, so if you want to pause the video and have a go at this one, you can, and then I'll go through the answers. I want you to find all of these fractions of 100. Okay, so pause the video now and have a go, and then we'll go through the answers rather. Okay, so if you pause the video and had a go, let's have a look at a half first. So a half of 100 means 100 divided by 2, and that's 50. Now we don't have to times by the top on this one, or on any of these for that matter, because it's only a 1 on the top, look. If there was anything else, then you would have to times by the top, but it's a 1, so we don't have to do anything. Right, a quarter of 100 is 25. 100 divided by 8, 12.5. 100 divided by 3, 33.3. Recurring. Now this recurring means, this dot means that 3 is going to go on and on and on forever. We can't ever get an exact number for a third of 100, it won't give us one. 1/6 of 100, or 100 divided by 6, is 16.6 recurring. Okay, and again that 6 just goes on and on. 1/7 is 100 divided by 7. Now this one's a tricky one. Our answer is 14.29, but this does go on for a long time, this answer. There's quite a lot of decimals after this 29. We've just rounded there to 2 decimal places. 1/10 of 100, or 100 divided by 10, nice easy one, is just 10. And then 1/5 of 100, or 100 divided by 5, is 20. So well done if you got all of those correct. Remember the rule, you're just dividing by the bottom number, okay? And then if their number on top is more than 1, you times by that. Okay, there's your rule in the top corner there. If you haven't written it down already, I suggest you do. Okay, right, so let's find the fractions of 75 then. Now, please pause the video again if you want to, and then I'll go through the answers. Okay, if you pause the video, let's go through the answers. Now, as you can see on these ones, all of the numbers on the top are not 1, so we're going to have to do some division and some multiplication in these questions. So, 2/3 of 75. 75 divided by 3, and then your answer times by 2. So 75 divided by 3 is 25, and then 25 times 2 is 50. Okay. 3/4. 75 divided by 4, and then our answer times by 3 is 56.25. Okay, so I don't worry if you needed a calculator for that one. It was a trickier question. You can always check out some future videos that I will be making on dividing numbers which give a decimal answer without a calculator. 2/8, so we divide by 8 and then times by 2, gives us 18.75. And then 4/9, 75 divided by 9, and then times by 4 is 33.3. And then 5/6, 75 divided by 6, and then times by 5 gives us 62.5. 5/7, 75 divided by 7, times by 5 gives us 53.57. If you have been doing these on a calculator, which, for most of them I wouldn't have worried if you had, once you do 75 divided by 7, I would press equals and then press times 5, because the calculator might get mixed up and give you the wrong answer. So after you've done the division, press equals before you press times by 5. 3/10, okay, 75 divided by 10, and then times by 3 gives us 22.5. And then finally 3/5, 75 divided by 5 times by 3 gives us 45. So well done if you got all of those right, and I hope the video makes a lot of sense and you understand fractions in a bit more detail now. If you're good with your multiplication and division, you probably found those quite simple, especially the hundreds one. This 75 one was a lot more complicated. Okay, so here's a few questions for you to have a go, just for the end of the video to give you one more go. So again, pause the video if you want to and just find these fractions of amounts. Okay, if you've paused the video, then we have got, and you've had a go, sorry, let's go through the answers. 2/3 of 93, so 93 divided by 3 and then times by 2 gives us 62. 2/5 of 105, 105 divided by 5 times by 2 gives us 42, and then 6/8 of 40, 40 divided by 8 and then times by 6 gives you 30. Well done, and thank you very much for using Cubit Education, and I'll see you next time.